Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Jed's podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, again. Hope you guys are all well. Well, got a massive episode coming up tonight. Really looking forward to talking to this legend, ex-AFL player. He played for Richmond, Dan Connors. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, Jeds. Thanks for having me, mate. Looking forward to the show.
No worries at all. Thanks for coming on. Really looking forward to chatting with you tonight. The first question I have for you, Dan, what year were you drafted?
2007, mate. Pick 58 to the Tigers, yeah.
That must have been a really special memory and moment for you and your family, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Sort of growing up, country footy town, sort of all you always wanted to do is to get drafted and play AFL footy, and I was lucky enough to fulfil that dream, mate. And it was it's definitely a memory that I'll cherish forever and something to look back on and very proud of.
Definitely terrific, fantastic. How long did you play AFL for?
It was technically 6 years, but it's probably 5.5 as I sort of retired halfway through my sixth year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the next question is for you. Did you win any awards when you were playing for Richmond?
I didn't win any awards. I think I was robbed of the the Rising Star Award in my second game. I had 25 touches. Thought I was going to get the award, but I gave it to somebody else. So apart from that, mate, not really. I won a few goal kicking awards in the VFL, but that's about it, mate, to be honest. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, and another question that I'm going to ask you, obviously, Dan, when you were at Richmond, who were some of your mentors you had in the footy club?
So I feel that Kane Pettifer, who's from Kyabram, so just up the road from Echuca, was someone that I was pretty close to. He was a senior player at the time, and also players like Nathan Brown and Big Matt Richardson were players that I sort of looked up to and followed around and just sort of followed their work ethic and stuff like that. And I got a lot of tips from Brownie being a similar type player. So yeah, and then when Cuzzy came along later on in his career, tried to hang out with him as much as possible, even though sometimes didn't end up in good situations. But yeah, he was someone else I learned a lot from as well.
Great to hear that. Hey, obviously learnt a lot from so many different people that were obviously involved. Are they actually still involved with the club? Do you know?
Well, every time you turn on the tally, Matt Richardson's head's on there, so he's involved in somewhat. I wish he was probably involved a little bit less because you get sick of looking at that head of his. But I think Brownie does a lot of stuff away from the club. Cuzzy's a bit busy at the moment, but yeah, I think I'd say Richo probably would be the mostly involved in the footy club. But yeah, I'll still keep in contact with those boys and stuff like that. So I think they have a mentoring program set up now at Richmond. So I'm sure they're involved in that.
Fantastic. Obviously, when you were playing back at the club, did you have a favourite memory that you can remember?
Probably my first game, I reckon. I'd say that against Sydney, up in Sydney. My parents got to go and come and watch that, and we didn't win, but it was still an unbelievable experience. Yeah, I'd say that one probably takes the cake, I reckon.
Definitely.
We didn't have too many highlights at Richmond when I was there, mate. We weren't very good, unlike them now.
Yeah, as I say, they're going very well now, which is good to see. Obviously, you've got some fantastic people involved with the club still. My next question was for you, Dan. Obviously, your time at Richmond. Obviously, was the training and that hard, like mentally and physically?
Yeah, I'd say yes. I'm someone who's not a naturally fit person, so a lot of the running and pre-season stuff like that I found quite difficult. Although I looked like an athlete, I actually am quite the opposite. So I found that part pretty hard. Yeah, and mentally, a lot of a lot of the challenges that AFL footy gives you is tough to deal with as well. So you've got to have that happy medium there where you can have an outlet and sort of get away from the club. But it certainly is an unbelievable job, and if you're good at it, I'd encourage you to stick it out as long as possible because there's not too many jobs getting around as well paid as that, and you got to hang around your mates pretty much every day of the week.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, so obviously you just mentioned obviously with the training and the preseason camp side of things. Where were some of like the preseason camps that you done in the past?
Well, the boys actually got to go to America one year. I missed out on that trip due to playing up in the off season, but from all reports, that was a pretty amazing experience. So I'm seeing a lot of photos and it looks pretty good. But I think I went to Gold Coast, went to Lawn one year, and New Zealand as well. I was lucky enough to go on that one. But yeah, I think I lucked out not going to the Arizona one. So they certainly looked after you in those preseason camps.
Terrific. That's fantastic. That also would have been a great experience. Obviously, and I suppose with the preseason camps, obviously, you would have spent like a week or something away. I assume that must have been important for you players to obviously bond a bit more together and obviously learn some stuff about each other, obviously outside of football.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for the blokes who come in for their first year, the new draftees, to sort of spend some time with their new teammates and, like you said, get to know them outside of on a footy basis and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think the club encourages them, the guys, to keep on doing those sort of preseason camps and get to know each other as quick as possible, because when you're playing with each other in a few months, you sort of want to know as much as possible about the bloke on the outside with.
Yeah, that's definitely right. Yeah, so obviously, whereabouts did you play on the field, Dan? What was your main role?
I was a bit everywhere, mate. I started off up on the wing. I got drafted as a wingman, and then I went to halfback, flank for a while, and then just played sort of like a medium-sized forward, sort of deep forward. And as I become older and lazier, I just more deep forward, mate. Just try to kick as many snags as possible.
So you obviously definitely got moved around a fair bit in the team, as you were just saying there.
Yeah, that's right. I think the more positions you can play, the more spots you can fill on the ground. So, if someone goes down back, they know that I can play there, and someone up forward goes down, I can play there as well. So, try to be sort of jack of all trades.
That's right, fantastic. Yeah, and obviously another question that I was gonna obviously ask you, Dan. Obviously, when you played back at Richmond, who were some of the guys that you played alongside with?
I was lucky enough to play with like a fairly different bunch. We had when I first got there, they were sort of an older senior type. So we had like Richo, Kane Johnson, Troy Simmons, and then as I was leaving, we had like folks like Dusty coming in, Brandon Ellis, Kochi, and then also my year, which was Rewalt, Shane Edwards, who was still playing now. So certainly it was a fair turnover when I was there. So you sort of got to see the blokes as they were finishing their career, some of the greats that you watched growing up, and then also some of the greats now who started their careers around the same time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so obviously going back to obviously your first year at the club, was that like a development program for like you younger players when you first obviously got drafted to the footy club?
Oh, not really. Like if you're good enough and you're ready to go, they sort of whacked you in straight away. I think Shane Edwards, he would have played 17 or 18 games in his first year. I managed to play 4 in my first year. So yeah, it just depends where you're at physically, I suppose. And if you're good enough, they'll chuck you in, as you see now, blokes stepping out of TSC Cup footy and going straight into senior footy and playing well.
Which is really fantastic to see. Yeah, you also just mentioned some guys there. Obviously, Shane Edwards, Dusty, and Revolt, and them types of guys. They're all obviously fantastic for players. They're all fantastic players to watch week in and week out.
Yeah, well, I'm getting sick of watching Fat Ass Martin's head on TV every week. It's like every time you turn the telly on, it's him doing something or whatever. So I'm looking forward to him finishing his career out because I'm sick of seeing him on telly. But it's obviously good to see Shane Edwards all the time playing well, and Jack Rewalt. He's my age, or him and Shane are my age, and they're still going strong. Shane looks like he'd play for another 5 or 6 years easily. So yeah, no, it was a good year to be drafted with, and they've certainly held the club in good stead now.
Most definitely fantastic. Yeah, so the next question for you, Dan. Obviously, now that you're finished up at Richmond, do you still follow Richmond or follow the club?
Yeah, a little bit. I obviously watch more of the more of the players these days, but certainly jumped on the bandwagon when they started winning flags. That's for sure. So I was their number one ticket holder last year. I went the year before. I was last year when they went and won the granny. I was trying to get a ticket everywhere. So it's certainly a better place to be a footy club when you're winning, and especially winning as well as they are. So yeah, I'd say I'm a bit of a follower.
That's right. Yeah. So obviously, you said obviously back then they weren't going as well, but they obviously last few years they've been really playing some really good footy as a team and obviously as a club.
Yeah.
Obviously, when they weren't traveling as well, was that tough for you? Obviously, outside of footy.
Uh it depends where we sort of were at with our footy. Like blokes like myself and Andy Collins, who's another Bendigo legend as well. We were drafted in the same year as well. We sort of because we were young and all we wanted to do was play AFL footy. We sort of we saw it as an opportunity if they were losing that we could get a spot in the side. So I know personally, secretly, deep down when they're losing, every now and then I'd have a little think to myself that maybe the week after is a chance I'd line up and get a game. So that's how the way I sort of looked at it. But I know some of the senior blokes, they would have found it tough at the end of their career, getting flogged every week and, shutting around in public and people bagging them out on telly and stuff like that would have been hard for them. But yeah, like I said, when I was there at that age, I was sort of just trying to play footy. So I probably didn't, love the club as much as someone who'd been there for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so obviously you just said then, Dan, obviously, especially nowadays, I suppose, there's a lot more social media. Obviously, if a team might not play as well as they might the next week, they obviously get criticised a lot in the media, or Pacific players might get targeted by the media. How do players and the club and the coaches deal with that stuff mentally? Because it must wear players and staff down, especially seeing it on the news or in the paper every day.
Yeah, it's right. Like the social media side wasn't as big when I was playing. It's ridiculous now. I don't know whether you've seen my Twitter feed, but I'm always fighting back with people on Twitter. So I would have been no good after a game. I've had a stinker and I've copped abuse from 30,000 people. So I'm sort of glad I missed that side of the things. But, a lot of the messages blokes get from Instagram and stuff like you see pop up in the paper, they're getting hounded. I think it's just a lot of them. It's just nuffies loving the game too much. And I don't think too many of the boys read too much into it, to be honest. When you're inside those four walls, it's just sort of you only really care about the opinion of either your teammate or your coaches, really. So, they do a good job of shielding that sort of stuff. But every now and then you get the odd player having a crack back, which is fair enough too. I'd be sticking up for myself as well.
Yeah, that's right. You've always got to stick up for yourself. Dan, like you were just saying then, mate, of course. Obviously, once you finished up at in the AFL system, where did you go on to play at?
Mate, this could take a while. I've been to a few clubs, mate. I started off with the Aberfeldy in Essendon District League. We lost a flag there. Then I went to Port Melbourne. Yeah, I might have went to Bridgie. I went to Port Melbourne actually, and then Bridgewater after that. I floated around, mate. I've been to a few, but a lot of them were just sort of career driven. So because I saw a career path opportunity that a club could get me a job outside of footy, that was sort of something that I tried to get out of. And now I was lucky enough to sign up with St Kilda City this year. But yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to play. But next year I'll be playing there, and we've got a few handy recruits. So, but yeah, like I said, I've been to a few clubs. I've been to Sandhurst as well, and Colbo. Big shout out to all those boys out there. But yeah, I've certainly been to a few clubs. I take it as positive. You can get to meet a new different bunch of blokes every year.
Yeah, that's right. So you obviously just said Sandhurst. Obviously, I know Sandhurst and Colbo. They're obviously both terrific, fantastic clubs. Obviously, when you were playing at them, I'll just mention them too. I know you mentioned a few earlier, Dan. Obviously,
Yep.
yeah. So obviously, playing at Colbo and Sandhurst, obviously you would have had a lot of like young kids, I suppose, with young families involved in both of them clubs. I'm sure they would have looked up to you as a role model around the footy club.
Yeah, well, yeah, coming from senior footy, senior footy experience, you sort of get that with the local local guys. So yeah, you got to help out as much as possible, and any advice that I have, I always tried to pass on as much as I could. But yeah, like the country footy clubs these days they're set up pretty well. So there's a lot of leaders within the footy club and stuff like that. So if I can help out, whatever, I tried to. But yeah, most of the kids got their heads switched on pretty well these days. So not too much you can pass on.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so obviously we were just saying then about being a role model. What was it like, especially being a leader? You said obviously with that experience of playing AFL football, I'm sure you would have taught the younger generation and the younger kids coming through them footy clubs. I'm sure they would have learnt a lot off you as a player.
Yeah, certainly as a player, you could pass on as much advice as possible. Some of my off-field stuff, I'd try to say just do the opposite. So whatever I did on there, to just don't do. So that'll hold you in good stead, I reckon. But certainly on field, I've been able to learn from players like Cuzzy Brownie and Richo, as I mentioned before, even sort of Fat Ass Martin as well. So whatever they've taught me or I've learnt off them, I'm always happy to pass on any tricks of the trade or whatever I do any of those kids, and hopefully can help them with their footy and keep them in good steady for their careers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so obviously you played at some of them clubs you just mentioned. Obviously, Dan, are
Yep.
you one day thinking of going down the path of maybe some coaching yourself, or you're not interested in that side of?
Oh, well, two of my best mates, Andy and Luba Lips, Julian Bull, both coached, Bridgie and Sanders and Colbo, and just to see the amount of work that they put in, every training session and every weekend, I sort of just scared the shit out of me, mate, because they were on the phone constantly organising things, mate, and my calendar, I don't think I'd be able to squeeze a senior coaching role in there, mate. I'd be happy to, chuck the hand up for canteen duty. That's probably as far as my coaching will go, I reckon, mate. That's about it. But those boys, it's only a country footy club, but it's nearly a full-time job for some of them, and they do a really good job. And I reckon the clubs do a really good job of finding those blokes who have a passion for it and stuff like, such as Andy and Julian, which the results speak for themselves that the clubs have chosen the right guys.
It is definitely a credit to anyone that puts up their hand, Dan, to obviously volunteer around the club. As you were just saying, I know myself with some experience, obviously helping out a couple of local footy clubs in Bendigo. Obviously, it is a tough job, and as you said, majority of it's all volunteering. So they put in a lot of hard work. And
yeah, absolutely, a lot of man hours goes behind the scenes. Trainers and water boys and water girls and all that sort of stuff. So, no, it's a credit to them, and they're going to need it more than ever in the next few years to make up for this missed season, which a lot of country teams, country towns, rely on their footy clubs to be playing every week. So, if you're out there, volunteers, the more the merrier, I suppose.
That's right. Yeah, so obviously going back to AFL, Dan, obviously when you were first drafted, as you said earlier on in the show, did you play in the VFL side, or did you go sort of straight into the AFL squad?
I played at Coburg for most of the year. My first couple of years, I think I played four senior AFL games both first 2 years. We actually were lucky enough to play in a grand final in my first year in the VFL, so that was a good experience, and we ended up getting beaten by a Geelong side. But they certainly played a lot of VFL footy, mate, and great competition, and they're lucky to have that competition there for players who aren't playing senior footy to play there every week, such a high standard and well-run league.
That's right. As you were saying just before with COVID, I'm sure everyone's really looking forward to, obviously, especially back here in Victoria. obviously next season, hopefully we can definitely get some footy here. Obviously AFL and local footy will be more.
They'll be going mad if they don't get any footy soon, I reckon.
Yeah, that's right. That's something that I want to ask you. Obviously, I know that obviously you didn't have to do it, but I'm not sure if you're keeping in contact with some of the players that are obviously in hubs. That must be a big challenge for them. It's obviously a credit to all the staff and players and the AFL to obviously have this season still continue. It must be tough.
Yeah, I'll still speak to Fat Ass Martin a fair bit, and he's telling me how many restrictions and stuff they have, and how difficult it is just to be stuck in a little sort of bubble or hub. But at the same time, he's also he knows how lucky he's got it that he's able to continue working and earning good money playing footy, while there's a lot of guys out there who aren't working or anything like that and we're stuck inside. So sort of double-edged sword. I think they are stuck in the bubble, but they can still do what they love.
That's right, as you were just saying, man. Yeah. So obviously, with playing back then in the AFL, was there some obviously like things now that you think that may have changed back when you were playing in clubs or in the AFL system?
Yeah, I think a lot of the sports science part of it has changed a lot. A lot of the way they train is just designed for today's game. A lot of the pre-seasons are set out just for the modern game, whereas when I first started, it was a lot of longer, 3 or 4K sort of running time trial stuff. Now where it's a lot of repeat speed and endurance stuff and sort of non-stop running and at different tempos. That sort of stuff has evolved as the game has evolved, and will continue to do until the game stops, I suppose, because every team's trying to find an edge over somebody else, so they'll look into a different part of fitness and stuff like that, and that's why the performance side of things, the coaching there, they get paid so well, and there's so much they look into in other sports as well to grab a little bit of that from there and something from that over there as well, and they combine into our game. So yeah, it's definitely evolving all the time, and I don't think it'll ever stop.
That's right. Obviously, fitness and that kind of stuff's obviously really important at their game.
Yeah, it is, mate. With non-stop running, and our game's sort of like no other really, where it's just flat out the whole time, and it's longer than most games as well. So fitness and that, so it's crucial.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, when you were playing, Dan, who were some of the players that you liked to play against from the opposition?
I think I played on Kepler Bradley one day for Freo. No disrespect to him, but I think that's probably my best game I ever had. So if there was more Kepler Bradleys around, maybe I'd give you some more Daniel Connors around, because I had a good day against him. I was lucky enough to play on Jared McVeigh in a practice match, and he kicked 4 goals in 1 quarter. So less of Jared McVeigh would be handy. And yeah, it was good to play on the same field as blokes like Ablett and Hodge and stuff like that as well. So that's something that you look back on and you can sort of tell your kids and stuff like that to be proud of. So yeah.
Definitely should always be proud of the achievements. Dan, obviously, I'll ask you one last question, and I hope you don't mind this question.
Right.
What type of job do you have now outside of footy, and what other hobbies do you have?
Well, last year I was actually, as you know, I was with your old man out at Fosterville. Just a big shout out to those boys out there. Thanks for keeping me on as long as you did. But now I moved on back to Melbourne, and I've started a company with a couple of my mates. It's called Australia-wide Plant Hire, where we sort of hire out machinery and stuff like that. And that's just sort of getting going at the moment, and also just doing a bit of scaffolding work as well. So going from mining to scaffolding to trying to run a company, hopefully. And I've certainly done a few things in my time. So a lot of life experience there, mate. And hopefully everything works out well with this company, and that'll be my last job, hopefully.
Definitely. I definitely hope things work out for you in your business, as you just said. Then I'll ask this will be the last question for the show, Dan. obviously, obviously with working, once you finish up in the AFL system, it must be tough as an ex-AFL footballer to find a job outside of the game, is it?
Yeah, well, certainly, like, growing up, you all you wanted to do was play AFL footy, and that was all you wanted to do with your life. And then once that's over, it's like trying to find a passion that you really enjoy and you want to launch into. So I know it's always been a bit of a struggle for me, certainly, to find something I loved. I did enjoy mining for quite a long time. That's why I got along with so well with the boys out at Fosterville, because enjoyed working out there. But then sort of found another passion with owning a company with a couple of my good mates and doing that. So it is something that a lot of players struggle with after their footy careers, and it's something that obviously I reckon they probably get looked into a bit more, and helping people go from that AFL lifestyle and sort of finishing their career and then sort of getting into a new one.
That's right. It's most definitely important to obviously really help out the players, as you were just saying. Then once they finish up in the AFL system, to obviously find a job outside of AFL, and obviously something obviously most important, like that they like doing in life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it is. It's important that they I think nowadays they're concentrating a lot more as well while they have their footy career. So the gap from finishing to starting work isn't so broad and wide for some people, that they can finish their career and they've done some study, or they've done some work experience while they're playing, and they can sort of slot straight into another career.
That's right. Well, a massive thank you to you, Dan, for obviously coming on tonight and obviously chatting about your AFL career, and obviously chatting about local footy too. Really appreciate your time tonight.
No worries, mate. I'm glad we got to squeeze out 30 minutes about my AFL career on wrap. It's as long as I've ever had.
No worries. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Take care. Bye for now.